Okay, welcome back to Lifeiness. This is a solo episode, so it's going to be short but significant, and we're going to talk about shedding the weight of self-consciousness so that your inner beauty can shine through, and how to just kind of clear out the clutter from inside. So I have all these great experts who are coming on the show talking about how to improve body and personality traits and all that great stuff. How to get embodied and reduce anxiety. But I think underneath all of this, the most important thing before you do any of that is to really be able to let go from a much deeper place. To not identify too much with the body or the personality or your identity. To be able to kind of play around in this, what Ram Dass has called our spacesuit, right? This suit that we were born into to interact with the physical realm. So it's kind of a life-changing practice to be able to start letting go. But first, I want to let you know about upcoming guests. Very excited to welcome Dr. Sarah Sohn next week. She's a sex counselor and physical therapist and pelvic floor specialist. After that, we have Ash Perrin talking about the power of play with his nonprofit traveling carnival, in which he brings play and entertainment to underprivileged and displaced kids across the globe. But I wanted to make this brief interlude just to share some recent thoughts about feeling good more in the spirit. Obviously, embodiment is really important, and kind of keeping body and soul intermeshed. But this one is mostly about that vibrant spirit I talk about in the intro to the show and how to maintain it. So welcome back and thanks for listening. And I'm talking about this today because I feel like there is so much shame in appearance. So much shame in appearing fatter than you'd like or older than you'd like. So much shame in a single gray hair or a blemish or a crease or a fat roll that you notice in a photo of yourself. But why shame? It seems out of proportion with just this natural body that we're given that is more of a process than anything. It's not, the body is not one thing. It doesn't stay in the same form. It kind of changes over time, and that's natural. So why do we live with so much shame about it, especially as women? So I was watching a documentary the other day about Ram Dass's life. And if you don't know, Ram Dass, born Richard Alpert, was a spiritual leader who recently passed away in 2019. He was part of the 1960s kind of movement towards Eastern mysticism. And he invites us to recognize that our bodies are like spacesuits. So we wear these during the human experience, like we're born into them, but they're not really our true selves. They provide us with this opportunity to navigate the physical realm. So the spacesuit is not just the body, but also, your social role, whether you're a mom or a doctor, or you think of yourself as the good daughter or the good wife or whatever it might be. But he encourages us to approach this with like a lightness and a playfulness, understanding that the body and the identity is not who we truly are. While our bodies and appearances hold significance in this world, they don't need to define our self-worth or limit our spiritual exploration or our pleasure. So by adopting a more playful perspective towards our egos and our bodies, I think we can transcend this like heaviness of anxiety and worry and fear that sometimes we attach to that social expectation of what we should look like. And I don't know this for sure because I don't know if we've ever seen a society like this, but I believe that in any society where a woman feels really free, like feels safe enough to even understand what that means, safe to be herself in her own skin, in the skin she was born in, I think that society is a truly liberated society. And of course, for men too, as well. But I'm just saying that I think at this point in our history, that could be the measure of it. It's like when men feel that way and women feel that way. Because I know a lot of men don't feel that way either. So this documentary, which I believe was just released, was done by a longtime follower of his who interviewed him. He was a man who'd been visiting him for many years in his home in Maui. And they were discussing how everyone wears a mask, because we're all afraid that people won't love us without the mask. And Jamie, the man interviewing, he said to Ram Dass, he said basically, I want to be a walking permission slip for not wearing a mask. And he points out how it's crazy because the thing is, we don't really want to hang out with people who only want our mask on, right? Even though we're afraid to not wear it. So it's so true. And of course, Ram Dass agrees. It's a beautiful statement. It's a mind-blowing idea. I think it's wonderful. But I'm sitting there watching this documentary thinking, there's these two white dudes talking to each other. They're beautiful souls, both of them, yes, right? But they're these guys who are super comfortable in their own skin, in their society, their status in the Western world. I think, yes, everyone has to deal with the burden of wearing some kind of mask, even them. But I'm looking closely at them and thinking about the difference between them and their average female counterpart. So neither of these guys have their hair colored. They don't have any evident makeup on, no plastic surgery that I can tell. But even below that, neither of them are really fawning. They're not using words carefully. They're not playing dumb so as not to come across too intellectual or intimidating as maybe a woman would. So I guess all I'm saying here is that it blows me away how everything they're saying is absolutely correct. Everyone wears masks from time to time. But all these gurus and spiritual leaders who I find wonderfully inspiring and wise, most of them have grown up in a world that doesn't pressure them to hide blemishes or wrinkles or be ashamed of the little bit of tummy fat they might have. And certainly they don't wear full makeup or perfect hair. So anyway, there's just so many layers to it. They're talking about these masks, but it's like, wow, like you need to interview a woman about this because it's strange that even they have all these female followers who I'm sure benefit from their wisdom. But there's so much more to it than that that's not mentioned. So personally, I know I want to be liberated from the invisible chains that bind us to fear. The fear of not being loved, of not being cared for, of not being seen as valuable past a certain point, whether that's past a certain weight or age or status. So it's really interesting. One of the next things he talks about is these 3 channels that a lot of us are tuned into, that we can think of our perception as having different, almost like television channels. And like the first channel is kind of the physical channel. So people who are kind of obsessed with the physical body, they look out of their, eyes and they see other physical bodies and they get obsessed with other physical bodies and they judge other physical bodies. And so there's that channel 1, as he calls it. And then there's channel 2, and that's more like our social roles, and social interactions and status and our identities and kind of what we identify with and how we're walking around, mostly in channel 1 and channel 2. Channel 2 is more like melodrama and, how people interact based on their different statuses, and how we just get completely caught up in that, like I'm a professor, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a doctor, or I don't have a job, so I'm not worth anything, or whatever it might be. But then he says there's another channel, and that is channel 3. And that is kind of the soul channel, and people who are looking beyond that and into the essence of other people and their connection. And on that channel, he says people walk around looking into each other's eyes and thinking, or saying, I'm in here, my spirit, my essence is in here. Are you in there? And I think that's just kind of a beautiful way to look at it. But he says most people are not tuning into channel 3. They're kind of flipping back and forth between channel 1 and 2. And personally, I have to say, I love playing on channel 1. I'm someone who finds the body interesting. I find it pleasing and usually joyful. I like makeup and clothes and skincare. I like dressing up. I enjoy being a girl, in other words. And I don't begrudge anyone those joys, male or female, young or old. Anybody who likes being a girl. I love celebrating beauty and decoration. It's one of the joys of living in human cultures. And so why renunciate that? But of course, with anything, there's a dark side, right? So, and for some reason in the Western world, especially for a certain class, I think of heterosexual women, there's a lot of pressure and a narrow definition of this particular human expression. So it's almost like you're in this like tight-fitting shoe. And I'm not here to change all that or even try to change any of it. But I do want to suggest that having a deep spiritual practice of knowing you can flip from one channel to the next, that you can zoom out and meditate on this at least once or twice a day and see that there's a much broader picture. And then just play around, play inside of those social expectations, if that's something you're interested in. And so if it's not bodies that you're obsessed with, maybe it's channel 2 and getting caught up in the melodrama of being a mom or being a lawyer, or just identifying so strongly with being a young, innovative techie or something. And then when that kind of falls apart, you're destroyed. So whatever it is you identify with, but your body, your status, it's not really who you are. It's not who you were when you were 5 years old. It's probably not who you're going to be when you're 90. It's not who you are sometimes when you're in your innermost secret, like fantasy life. So even if you don't believe in a spiritual life at all, you can realize that there's more to your essence than those 2 first channels. Especially when you're like deeply connected to others, if you're deep in the flow of creativity, or games or fun, or if you're connected to nature, you realize that you are so much more because you're connected. So you're so much more than that, just your body and status, because you're really just a part of this bigger thing. Realizing all of this, I think, reduces anxiety, reduces worry, reduces fear of not being loved. So if you're looking for a bottom line, like what is the point of all of this that I'm saying? I think reducing anxiety is a huge win. So there are all these remarkable thought leaders out there who've been venerated for finding the path towards true spiritual liberation. And I read and follow a lot of them. I'm a big fan of Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer, Ram Dass, like I was saying, Alan Watts. A lot of these different, gurus, I like to follow. I like to kind of put all of this information together and use it to reduce my own anxiety. And I'm thinking, yes, they have definitely helped me find a path towards a liberation of the soul. But feels like the idea of being in a female body in Western society, raised in a consumerist culture, conditioned to worship and try to attain a certain body type. And then on top of that, there's these extra layers of social media masks that we wear, photos and videos that we capture, that one moment in time, and then we curate them. We possibly put filters on top of them, and we put text on there or music to put the final touches on our social media mask. And so all of these layers that are not that have never been addressed by these gurus. I just think there's a huge opportunity to talk about this. Whether you're female or not, all these extra masks can really do a number on who you truly are. And more importantly, knowing and being comfortable with what you are under there. So together, I want to embark on a journey of self-discovery, shedding the ego, freeing ourselves from identifying too closely with what Ram Dass referred to as our spacesuits, these bodies and identities that we were born into as beings of Earth, and to get away from the fear of being unattractive or irrelevant or old based on your outer suit. It can be so debilitating. Let's shed certain things that don't serve us and shake out those outdated models and stories that keep us judging ourselves and others. Like, why do we continue doing things that don't serve our souls or serve our own pleasure? Can you try and release the grip on your own self-gaze? I think that I've only done it momentarily, but it was phenomenal to be able to really be detached from that. Probably one of the most liberating feelings I could have imagined. Because your ego's grip on your self-perception prevents you from radiating the beauty that comes from within. Right? We need to transcend societal expectations to embrace our authentic selves. You don't have to necessarily reject those expectations. How about just playing with them like a game? I know this feeling in very small doses, and I really think it is something everyone should feel. Because to be free of the grip of the ego's judgment and criticism, to observe these thoughts without attaching them to ourselves is amazing, because it creates space within your mind for the emergence of other things. It gives you space to think about and grow new thoughts and ideas so that you can just play and have fun with life. Just have fun with these societal expectations. Have fun with your preferences, but don't get attached to them. And in this way, you can find much more love and compassion for yourself. More love and compassion for your body than you ever thought you could. Because once you start really loving yourself, you realize how sacred your body is. Your physical form is not a hindrance or just a vessel. It's an integral part of your spiritual journey. If you want to, you should decorate it. Move it and feed it as you see fit, with joy, not external expectation or arbitrary shape-shifting to make others feel comfortable. You are perfect and valuable and worthy just as you are. I know this sounds like a cliche, but it's absolutely true. You can feel this way about yourself. Maybe you don't believe it yet, but at least play with the thought. As I wrap up here, I want to just kind of pause in a quiet prayer. I want us to honor our bodies and celebrate our divine essence. Our bodies carry the imprints of our experience, and through them we engage with the world around us. By embracing our bodies, we cultivate self-acceptance and love, which radiates outward and inspires others to do the same. But know you are not just your body. Your senses can heighten your spiritual experience, but they are not who you are. Use your body for your own pleasure, your own little celebration of life. Embrace your sensuality, for it is through the senses that we experience the beauty of life. And more than anything, embrace the present moment fully, rather than worrying about who's going to love you in the future, where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing, because this is what you have. You have this body right now. You have this spirit right now. So let us release the burdens of the past, the anxieties of the future, and anchor ourselves in the present moment, in the present body, with grace, love, joy, and wisdom. So thanks so much for joining me today. I would love for you to go forth and consider how cultivating a light and playful attitude towards your ego and your body can transform your experience of life. Visualize yourself shedding the weight of self-consciousness and embracing the freedom of joy and self-acceptance. Thank you for listening to Lifiness today. I'm Professor Sarah, and if you'd like to stay in touch, please follow me at Book of Lifiness on Instagram and TikTok. Oh, and check out my meditations published every other week. I'm really excited about releasing the one for next week. It's a gratitude meditation with my original music in the background. So until then, have a playful and beautiful day and a relaxing evening.